Hello there, you beautiful people. My name is Willow, and welcome to another Fallout 4 challenge run. My last run in Starfield with only pistols was simple, so today we're going to take on something more complex while we find out if I can beat Fallout 4's survival difficulty as a sniper. Before we get into the run, let's lay down some ground rules. I can only use weapons with the sniper suffix to deal damage. VATS, the sneak perk, and power armor are all banned. I must play the entire game on the survival difficulty. I can't use any bugs or glitches on purpose to exploit the game. I can only use visual mods, and I cannot use console commands for anything but fixing bugs. With the rules of the run laid out, let's take a look at the challenge itself. This run should be interesting as it takes me out of my comfort zone, as I generally don't choose to play from range or use anything other than iron and reflex sights in shooter games. I'm writing this script as I go, and all of this part has been written before beginning the run. If you want to skip past my starting thoughts and get right into the gameplay, skip to the timecode on screen now. With them gone, let's scope out this run. Alright, this run is a bit different from my others due to me banning power armor, VATS, and the sneak perk. Let's really quickly cover why I'm banning each of these. The simple ones are VATS and power armor because, simply put, they don't fit the spirit of the run. A sniper wouldn't go around in a big, bulky, loud powered suit, and aiming is kind of the main thing a sniper does, so VATS seems cheap. With those out of the way, we can take a look at the sneak perk. I am banning this perk for the same reason I banned Blitz in my melee only run. I feel it would make life too easy for me, so I'm banning it to make the run more interesting. Moving on to the run itself, let's talk about what I'm considering a sniper in Fallout 4, as it's relatively simple. In Fallout 4, there's an extensive weapon modification system, and depending on what attachments you choose for a weapon, you get different automated names. Certain weapons can get the sniper suffix whenever they have a long barrel, a scope, and a stock instead of a pistol grip. There are actually quite a few weapons capable of getting the sniper suffix, including all of the pipe guns, the hunting rifle, and combat rifles, along with both the laser and plasma rifles. There are probably even more weapons that can get this suffix, but I haven't really looked into that. But that's enough talking about weapons, let's get on with it. Go down below and leave a comment letting me know if you think I can beat this run. I think I can, but I'm going to struggle a lot with using scopes, especially in the close quarters dungeons of Fallout 4. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and with that, let's jump into the gameplay where we start the game in our pre-war bathroom, which is fitting because our character hasn't shaved in years. After crafting our elite sniper, I head out of the bathroom and stare at liquor bottles until the doorbell rings and I answer to find a man trying to save my life. I tell him to go away before giving him all of my personal information, including my name and special stats. I go with 3 in Strength for the Armorer perk, 2 in Perception for the Rifleman perk, 6 in Endurance because I want some survivability, 4 in Charisma for speech checks and the Lone Wanderer perk, 8 in Intelligence for weapon crafting and experience gains, 1 in Agility because who needs to be agile, and 4 in Luck for Bloody Mess and the choice of getting Idiot Savant without too much investment. With that, I go check on my deadbeat roommate, Sean, who won't stop complaining and making a mess. I'm thinking about evicting him for being late on rent, but either way I managed to convince him to stop crying before the TV comes along to tell me that the world is ending. I bunny hop my way to the vault platform and watch the glowing sea's birth before riding down an elevator to the vault entrance where I have a staring contest with a security guard and get turned into a popsicle for a really long time, until eventually I wake up just long enough for my wife to perform an awesome magic trick where she catches a bullet before being frozen again. After a while though, I wake up and find my wife dead and my roomie gone. I start making my way through the vault and do the old song and dance of trapping radroaches in various rooms. I even run into this bug where a radroach respawns randomly and I have to trap him again before I grab a free Apple Watch off the ground and dust it off before trying to charge it, only to find out that the charging port opens doors. Cool! I then ride an elevator back up to the surface and begin our adventure into the Commonwealth wasteland. On a quick side note, the frame rate was quite bad until I fix it at the Red Rocket, so sorry for that. Anyways, I start off by searching Sanctuary for a pipe gun, and luckily enough find a few throughout, and now I just need to modify one of these into a sniper rifle. So I start scrapping a ton of stuff here in Sanctuary, only to find I'm short on adhesive. I then decide to speak with Codsworth, our robo-butler, and he suggests searching the neighborhood for my missing roomie. I agree and join him, and then ignore him and loot a Doomsday Prepper's cellar hoping to find duct tape, but I am not that lucky. Eventually, I find some adhesive in one of these these houses after Codsworth clears out the neighborhood and suggests I go to Concord to find other people. I then take my adhesive and head over to the weapons workbench where I create our first weapon of the run, a pipe sniper rifle. I then immediately make my way over to the Red Rocket truck stop where I meet a doggo and wait a while to fight some mole rats, and oh boy, this is my first taste of fighting enemies at point blank with a sniper, and it has made me a bit worried, but I'll touch on that later. I kill off all the mole rats and then make my way to Concord where I get to snipe at the raiders outside with ease and pick them off one at a time before Preston decides to take a nosedive off of the museum. I try to follow him through the door, hoping he'll be able to help me clear out the museum, but he's in his normal spot, so I kill a couple of raiders and exit, as I don't want to do this quest yet. But when I exit the museum, I get shot at and am super confused, unable to find who shot me until the last second before I die. Yeah, not my proudest moment, but I decide to avoid Concord for now and just make my way straight to Trashcan Carla and flirt with her, figuring we both look homeless, so maybe I have a chance. Sadly though, she rejects my attempt at love, but I get a discount and trade with her before getting absolutely blasted by a Mr. Gutsy. I barely deal any damage to him and he takes almost all of my health with one hit. I quickly panic and change my pants before sprinting towards the diner while the drug dealers and Trudy try and fight the robot alongside Carla. Unfortunately, I get a little bit too big for my britches and try to take down Wolfgang and Simone while they are distracted. This doesn't go well and I get murdered immediately, and well, I try again and this time there's no hostile encounter, so I try and convince Trudy and Wolfgang not to kill each other, but fail. So instead, I kill Wolfgang and Simone before collecting my reward from Trudy and trading with her to get a hunting rifle, but on my way back to the Red Rocket, I receive a surprise rear action from Larry the Sneaky Ghoul, which leaves me very dead. I then go through all of that again without incident and clear Concord of raiders as I make my way back to Sanctuary where I modify our lowly hunting rifle into a full-blown sniper rifle. With my newfound weapon, I decide to head back to Concord and clear out the Museum of Freedom for some quick and easy experience. The fighting inside is actually quite fun. I'm able to keep most of the enemies at a medium range, so the scopes on my pipe and hunting rifles aren't too hindering as I blow through the raiders until none are left standing. I then leave the museum, as I don't actually want to save Preston and the gang, before making my way south, as I've decided I'm gonna go ahead and make my way towards Boston, as I want to start the railroad questline so I can get Ballistic Weave. Right when I pass Trudy's diner though, I'm attacked by some dogs and budbloogs that are very mean. I run into the diner trying to get Trudy to help me, and together we manage to deal with the last of the budbloogs before heading south towards the Old North Church. Along the way to the Old North Church, I end up using some Mirelurks to distract a raider camp so I can sneak past and reach Pikmin's gallery. I then slowly but surely pick off the raiders outside one by one with my sniper rifles until the last one falls, allowing me to sleep so I can save before entering the Old North Church. Inside, I easily remove the ghoul infestation using my superior scoped sniping supplements. I then use the decoder ring to spell railroad, which opens a hidden door that allows me to meet with Desdemona, the leader of the railroad, and after a long conversation with her and Deacon, where I constantly tell them I have no idea who they are, they decide I'm harmless, and I then speak with Deacon as Desdemona leaves and he says they want to make me into a tourist, which is such a waste, and that he wants me to join him in a really important mission to prove that I'm railroad material. I agree and head out to meet at an overpass, and along the way run into a bunch of bloatflies. I wanted to show this because my live chat kept telling me to hip fire to avoid the scope issue, but that doesn't work as the attachments required for snipers makes hipfire so inaccurate it's useless. Also, I die. Either way, I eventually make my way to the overpass and meet with Deacon, who is in a really good disguise. He teaches me about rail signs and what they mean, as well as helping me with fighting some ghouls until we reach a man named Ricky. Before speaking with him, Deacon tells me of a phrase and counterphrase to identify myself as railroad to him. He then asks if I have a Geiger counter, and I respond with mine is in the shop. He then goes on about the Slocum Joe's nearby, which is crawling with Institute synths and landmines. I then speak with with Deacon, who says we should go in through the back door, but that sounds too naughty for me. I tell him I'd rather go in through the front, and he says okay. So we go up to the front and start fighting our way through the synths and turrets inside the donut shop, and it goes pretty well. I make my way to a nearby rooftop and get a lot of easy shots on the synths and turrets until the shop goes silent. Deacon and I then make our way into the basement of the building to find that this was pointless as they turned off the power to the elevator. You know, Bethesda really likes taking player choice away, so instead we have to go in through the back entrance with Deacon and continue fighting our way through rooms of synths with him. Most of the rooms are relatively trivial, with me using Deacon to tank some hits while dealing with the synths effortlessly with my array of scoped slaughter devices. The only room that gave me any trouble was the final room with the synth leader, but through the clever use of peeking out from behind cover to unload a few rounds and then reloading, I managed to work my way through them and grab Carrington's prototype. I also grab a hazmat suit for later before making my way towards the elevators, where I die to the mines on the stairs. I do all of that again, and this time there's no mines on the stairs. I fight my way through the last two synths in the elevator room before heading back towards the railroad headquarters, and along the way I grab a laser rifle off the corpse of one of Dance's soldiers before jumping into the river and swimming back to the Old North Church. When I enter the front door to the HQ, I find that Deacon and Desdemona are glitching out until they enter their normal dialogue about me killing 100 synths and carrying Deacon through Slocum Joe's. I then deliver the prototype to Carrington, who tells me to go out to a dead drop from somebody named Old Man Stockton, who has some kind of emergency I need to solve, and upon listening to the holotape and the dead drop, it just tells me to go speak with Old Man Stockton. Seems like the dead drop was pointless, but let's get on with it. I tell him that my Geiger counter is in the shop, and he tells me that I need to go kill some raiders so he can meet me with a synth that needs to be moved to a safe house. So I make my way to a nearby church and kill off a few raiders, turning them into loot pinatas with ease before Stockton shows up with a synth named H222. I then wait for a while until a man named High Rise shows up and asks me to help him escort H2 through some raiders to a safe house. I tell him no problem before heading out, and oh, there's super mutants and raiders along the way. Well, the firefight is actually kind of tense and chaotic, but I'm a master at taming chaos through getting shot in the face and sniping off raiders one at a time. I safely escort H222 to High Rise's, High Rise? They expended all of their creativity on that name, didn't they? Either way, I return to the Railroad HQ and report to Dr. Carrington again, and he tells me the Augusta Safe House isn't reporting in, and he wants me to check in on them. He tells me of another dead drop with more information, but before we do that, I decide to head over to the Red Rocket truck stop, where I modify the laser rifle we picked up earlier into a sniper rifle. After that, I make my way over to Cambridge Police Station because I want to do a quest with Paladin Dance so I can stockpile more fusion cells. I talk to the Paladin, and he recruits me to help him go out to ArcJet Systems to retrieve the deep-range transmitter there. This quest is notoriously easy because Paladin Dance can do the entire thing for us. So I managed to rack up nearly 1,000 fusion cells, and I'll just throw together a combat montage of the quest for you right here.
I don't think... Over there! Not getting... Destruction of fellowship. Standing down. Come on, you heathens! You hear that? Hostile, reacquired.
4.
Anything.
3. 2. Stealth capabilities. Fascinating. 1. Engine firing.
Alright, so I complete the quest and get the Righteous Authority laser rifle, which is completely useless to me because VATS is banned. It will sell for a decent price at least, but moving on, I decide to get back to that railroad quest from earlier. So I head off to get the dead drop, which is in the middle of a super mutant settlement. What the hell? It wasn't an issue to grab it, but why in the hell would they put a dead drop here? Like, sure, it's secure, but placing it and retrieving it is way harder than it needs to be. This must be why the railroad has so few members. Half of the ones they recruit die whenever they deliver or retrieve dead drops. Either way, I check the dead drop and it tells me that there's trouble at the safe house. Really? You couldn't just tell me to go to the safe house? Okay, I am usually pretty fair to the railroad. I know they get a lot of hate, and I try and focus on the good aspects, but they are really bad at their jobs in this case. Either way, I make my way towards the safe house, and it's at this point I decide to pull my chat to see if I can use fast travel. 70% said yes, so if you see me fast travel at any point in this run, that's why. I fast travel to Bunker Hill to sell a bunch of gear, and then back to the safe house where I start fighting through a ton of raiders. The combat is slow, and I have to approach each room with caution. It's these close quarter dungeons that are really giving me the most trouble in this run. I slowly but surely start mowing my way through all of the raiders inside using the one shot, one kill ethos. And when that ethos doesn't work, I switch to the many shots, one kill ethos. Eventually though, I reach this large room and have a hilarious moment in the live stream, so here it is. I vaguely remember that somebody in here has a missile launcher, and I really hate that they have a missile launcher. Oh. Speak of the devil. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell if you want to show up to the live streams right here on this channel. And if you want to join the channel membership program, you can get access to all the live stream VODs right now. Moving on, we approach the room again, and this time the fighting goes better as I manage to snipe the raider with the missile launcher in one shot before heading further into the dungeon until I find a note that explains that the safe house was wiped out by the Institute. With that information, I return to the Railroad HQ and report to Carrington, who gives me a hardened combat sniper rifle. Hell yes! I had no idea that could or would even happen, but I'm pumped about it. I also go ahead and upgrade my hunting sniper rifle again before heading out to test the combat rifle on a glowing one ghoul. It's honestly quite good, but the damage per shot is less than the hunting rifle, meaning that for sneak shots I'm still gonna be using that. Later, I'll try and get a better receiver to fix that, but for now, I decide to go do a couple of quests for Pam, as she gives the quest for Ballistic Weave. The first quest she gives me is to turn a settlement into a railroad safe house, so I head over to Sunshine Tidings Co-op and set up 2 turrets, and voila, it's a safe house. Moving on, her next quest is to find a DIA cache, and this is the one for us to get Ballistic Weave. I make my way out to a hospital containing the cache, and it's infested with super mutants. This shouldn't be too much of an issue as I start sniping my way through all of the big green boys. It's going quite well until I find the cache and all of a sudden start sucking at video games. I proceed to die a lot. So many times, I didn't even record them all. It was a really brutal fight, and basically came down to me needing to avoid detection for most of the dungeon. I'm starting to regret banning the sneaking perk, but either way, I do eventually manage to get the cache again, before running out of the hospital like a coward and returning to Pam to turn in the quest. Afterwards, I speak with Tinker Tom, who tells me I can now use Ballistic Weave, and I buy some clothing with it installed from him before heading out towards Park Street Station to save everyone's favorite Clockwork Dick. On my way to Park Street Station, I stop by Good Neighbor and end up dying to a thug inside before coming back and murdering him with ease the second time. I then leave Good Neighbor and continue on my way towards Park Street Station, but end up dying to a legendary super mutant before reaching it. I then go back through Boston, starting from the Old North Church again, and this time I accidentally shoot Hancock and Good Neighbor, which gets me killed. Eventually though, I do manage to get past all these minor nuisances and enter the subway station only to die in the first room of the dungeon on my first attempt. It's just not my day. I try again, and this time I enter the subway and start making steady progress through it. The fights themselves are tense, but I can pretty regularly keep my distance despite the small rooms, and this leads to me getting some great snipes off on various triggermen throughout the dungeon. I slowly but surely take down all of the triggermen in my path one at a time before reaching this atrium where Dino is talking with Nick, and he is just begging to be sniped in the back of the head. I quickly answer his begging with a shot to the back of the head with the sneak attack bonus, which kills him. I then save Nick, the Clockwork Dick, before we start making our way through the rest of the vault. Honestly, the rest of the vault is trivial, with Nick being able to distract enemies as I pick them off. Eventually, we reach the confrontation with Skinny and Darla. Instead of talking with them, I just open fire, and after running for my life and isolating some of the triggermen, I manage to kill all 4 of them with Nick's help, and take Darla's dress before running out of the station with Nick and speaking with him. I tell him I'll meet him at his office and go to do just that. I tell him all about my roommate being kidnapped and wife being killed, and he says we should go check out Kellogg's house as he's a mercenary who recently left Diamond City and matches the description. Nick and I head over to the house, but can't get in because we need a key. So I make my way over to the mayor's office and speak with Piper before stealing the key from the secretary's desk and then making my way back to Kellogg's house, where Nick and I investigate and end up finding some cigars that Dogmeat can use to track down Kellogg. I then head out of Diamond City and end up fighting some super mutants with Diamond City security nearby, which was really fun. Sadly, there were no legendaries here, so that was a bummer, but the fight was good. I then make my way into the river where I swim towards Fort Hagen. On a side note, Aquaboy is such a good perk for map traversal on survival. If you don't use it, you really should. And sometimes you get to walk on water like I did when I found this funny glitch. After doing one hell of a Jesus impersonation, I reach Fort Hagen and start my assault by blowing up some turrets on the roof before making my way inside. I then activate activate? What the hell? Yes. I then learned to speak, apparently. I activate a Protectron and then head upstairs where I start killing off turrets and synths one by one. I also end up bashing multiple synths to death, which isn't something I expected to do much in this run, so that was fun. I continue my way through the rooms filled with synths and turrets, and the combat is rough, but not too horrible. I do end up dying to a synth about halfway through the dungeon, but other than that, I managed to click on heads enough times to easily make my way to Kellogg. It's here where I get worried that I can't progress right now. I even consider leaving the fort because I am so unbelievably weak compared to Kellogg. For starters, he uses Stimpaks and Stealth Boys, which makes him annoying, but what really makes him deadly is the fact that his revolver one-shots me. I die over and over and over, but eventually, through the clever tactic of being an absolute coward and running away over and over, I manage to whittle him down to the point where I blow his head off. I then scoop part of his brain out and look through his diary before making my way to the roof of Fort Hagen to watch a big Zeppelin enter the Commonwealth. I then make my way back to Diamond City, where I buy the Old Faithful laser rifle, which deals double damage to full health enemies, from Arturo, before taking it to the Red Rocket, where I move my attachments from my other sniper laser rifle to the legendary variant. I then take the sequin dress I got from Darla earlier and give it ballistic weave, so we're gonna be able to wear a sequin dress and Ushanka hat for the rest of the run. With that, I then head to Nick's office where I speak with him and Piper about what happened with Kellogg. After a long conversation, it's decided we should go through Kellogg's memories, so I make my way over to the memory den in Good Neighbor and speak with Dr. Amari before walking through the most annoying section in the game. After watching Kellogg's sob story, I make my way out to the glowing sea to track down a rogue Institute scientist known as Virgil. I use the hazmat suit we grabbed earlier and start scoping out a path through the glowing sea. I kill some bugs and rad scorpions without too much issue before encountering a Deathclaw. I try and kill it by unloading my laser and combat sniper rifles into the big beast, but he is too fast and kills me after closing the distance. I go at it again, and this time I manage to slowly but surely explore my way through the glowing sea until I reach a cave that Virgil is hiding in. I use a cliff nearby to get easy shots on the Deathclaw outside his cave and kill it before heading inside and speaking with Virgil. He tells me I need to kill a courser, so I head off to do just that and make my way to Green Tech Genetics, where the fight between me and the gunners kicks off. I start mowing through the small groups of gunners with little to no issue until I reach this walkway with a missile launching gunner who quickly kills me. I then proceed to struggle and die 2 more times before reaching the courser, but eventually I do so, and I approach this fight the way I did the Kellogg fight. I fire a few shots at the courser and then run away, but sadly, thanks to the collision meshes in this game being absolutely horrid, I end up dying to the courser after missing this shot. This upset me quite a bit. I was really frustrated by that, but I go at it again and manage to successfully duel the Courser until he falls, before saving a synth and making my way back to the railroad to have the Courser chip decoded by Tinker Tom. I then return to Virgil, who gives me plans for a teleporter that will allow me to enter the Institute, known as the Signal Interceptor. I then make my way back to the Railroad HQ and speak with Desdemona about the plans, and she tells me to speak with Tinker Tom. Tinker Tom then sends me to build the first bit of the Signal Interceptor over at Mercer's safe house on the other side of the map. I do that and then return to Tinker Tom at the headquarters, and he tells me to meet him over at the Mercer safe house to finish building the Signal Interceptor. This was a lot of back and forth, but I return to Mercer with all of the materials in hand and build the Signal Interceptor before hopping onto the platform and being teleported into the Institute. As I listen to Father's annoying elevator speech, you should go down below and subscribe to the channel and like if you're enjoying the video. Once inside the Institute, I go through the tedious process of listening to the biggest dump of dialogue in any Bethesda game. Between speaking with Father for the first time, meeting all of the directors of the Institute, and speaking with Liam Benet, otherwise known as the Patriot, I basically spend 20 minutes just talking to various people. After that boring bit of gameplay, I make my way out to Libertalia to meet up with a Courser and capture a rogue synth. I start fighting through the raiders, and this section is really fun. The engagement distances are really long, so I get to use the full advantage of having a scope against these raiders. I have an absolute blast clicking on the heads of many raiders. But like anything else that's too fun, it has to come to an end at some point, and this time that end is me being obliterated by the raiders. I go at it again, and this time I manage to fight my way through the raiders without issue and confront the synth raider and recite his recall code before teleporting back to the Institute to speak with Father, who gives me a free apartment and tells me of a plan to recapture 4 synths being held by the railroad at Bunker Hill. I then teleport out of the Institute and swim over to the Railroad HQ, where I inform Desdemona about the attack, and she says I should go along with the plan until we reach the final room of Bunker Hill. It's here where I'll betray the Courser that's coming with me. I then go to meet up with the Courser and, die to some gunners on this bridge. Well then, I go at it again, and this time I realize I can go put in a report with Pam about the Institute before heading off to battle. I do just that, and she tells me that I need to go to the Cambridge Polymer Labs in order to get some credentials for Liam. We'll come back to that later. For now, I head out and meet the Courser and then just walk through all of the fighting in the battlefield that is Bunker Hill. No one here is hostile with me, so this section is a cakewalk as I reach the underground section of Bunker Hill and then wait for the railroad to win the fight against the Brotherhood and synths here before killing the Courser and leaving. I then speak with Father on the roof of the CIT ruins, and he says that I need to become more involved in the future of the Institute. Now then, it's time to head to the Polymer Labs, but before that, I make my way to Covenant and trade with a traveling armor salesman to get a bunch of ballistic fiber, which I use to upgrade my dress with Mark II ballistic weave. With that, I'm happy with my gear, and I make my way over to Cambridge Polymer Labs, where I speak with a Miss Nanny robot, who hires me to work on some super power armor after making me watch a really boring presentation. I then head into the labs and start killing all the ghouls here while I make my way into this locked off room using the air vents. Once inside, I get the login credentials off a terminal before making my way back out of the lab, killing a couple of turrets and the Miss Nanny on my way out of the building. I then head back to the railroad, and Desdemona gives a speech before telling me to give the credentials to Patriot, but don't tell him we plan to actually destroy the Institute instead of saving just a dozen synths. I then teleport back to the Institute and speak with Z1, who says he'll try and find synths to help us with the rebellion. I then give the credentials to Liam before heading up to the directors meeting where Father reveals Phase 3 to me. Phase 3 is a plan for the Institute to make their own nuclear reactor. After the meeting, I speak with Allie, who tells me that we're going to mass fusion to get the final piece of the reactor. I head up to the relay room and get a message telling me the Brotherhood will be very disappointed if I teleport to mass fusion. I ignore this warning and teleport to the roof of the skyscraper, where I start blowing away the Brotherhood Brotherhood soldiers left and right. The combat sniper is really coming into its own here, as earlier when I upgraded the dress, I also upgraded the receiver on the combat rifle, which makes it really good on the damage per shot category, and it's currently making short work of all of these power armored punks. I slowly but surely clear the roof and then begin riding down the elevator. I kill off most of the Brotherhood on the way down until they blow the elevator and I have to fight a Brotherhood knight. The fight with him was worrying me, but it was a cakewalk. I then kill off all of the other Brotherhood members before making my way to the reactor room where I don my hazmat suit for the last time. I grab the agitator before exiting the reactor room, and for some reason Allie isn't here, so I have to fight through these robots myself. It's kind of rough, and I end up having to constantly open and close the doors to the reactor airlock in order to avoid dying. It takes forever, but I kill the sentry bot and then start fighting the Assaultrons. I nearly die a few times and have a butt-clenching moment when one of the Assaultrons fires their face laser, but in the end I manage to kill off these Assaultrons and make my way up the stairs only to nearly die to this Protectron. This gave me a slight heart attack before I run out of mass fusion and return to the Institute, where I immediately speak with Z1, who tells me I need to kill a bunch of synth guards so that his synth allies can start producing weapons for the rebellion. I tell him I'll do it and then head down and start fighting the guards, and while the fight is tense, it's not really all that difficult, and we overpower them with the help of our synth allies. I then go to Advanced Systems, where I give the agitator to Allie, and then go speak with Father, who tells me I have to go help a team of Institute scientists that are trying to recruit a man from the Commonwealth. I make my way to the house that they're holed up in, and start sniping off a bunch of gunners outside without too much issue. At this point, I'm able to deal with most enemies with only a few shots, and I can abuse the range pretty easily. Either way, I head into the house and sass a man, who then gets knocked out by a synth before I return to Father. Father then has me give a speech to the Commonwealth, and I quickly do so before being told to repair the radio in Diamond City. I make my way out to Diamond City and die because I stole some noodles. They are very protective of their noodles here at Power Noodles. Also, my last save is before I helped Z1 with the synth guards. This really sucks, but I go through all of that again and then head into Diamond City Radio, where I swiftly fix the broken broadcast equipment before returning to the Institute, where I turn on their reactor for the very first time. Father gives a speech as I do so, before I head to the director's meeting where we talk about threats to the Institute, and after the meeting ends, a synth runs into my room and tells me my apartment has flooded. I rush over and speak with Z1, who tells me the Brotherhood are attacking the railroad. I quickly teleport out of the Institute and head over to the railroad to tell Desdemona that the Brotherhood are on their way. As it turns out, I wasn't fast enough, and the Brotherhood burst into the HQ, and well, this section was really rough for me. The first wave of Brotherhood aren't an issue, as I have all of the leaders of the railroad here to help me, but when I go into the catacombs, I end up dying multiple times. The enemies here don't do huge damage or anything, but they do take a long time to take down since I'm all alone against them and they're in power armor. I end up getting overwhelmed a few times, and it's just rough. After struggling for a while, I managed to make it to the final group of Brotherhood members, and after a tense firefight where I run away once or twice, I managed to fell the Brotherhood members and the leadership of the railroad regroup in the church. It's here where Desdemona tells me that we're going to take down the Brotherhood by stealing a vertibird and infiltrating the Pridwin. I'm told to go to the Cambridge police station with Deacon and Tinker Tom to steal a vertibird, and when I arrive and start fighting, it goes quite well. I managed to clear the outside of the police station without taking too much of a beating, but I know the hard part is yet to come. Once we enter the police station, I have pretty much no cover at all, and all of the enemies are right on top of me. This combination of horrible things means that I die pretty quickly after entering, and my last save is before the railroad got attacked. You know what? Here's a carnage and death montage of me defending the railroad and stealing the vertibird. Enjoy!
Now that's just annoying. Hopefully.
We need reinforcements! Made! Damn it! Taking damage! Lost someone.
Insert something Shakespearean involving death. Your inevitable doom.
With the vertibird stolen, we ride over to the Pridwin, while Tinker Tom nearly crashes a few times trying to figure out how to fly the damn thing. But eventually, we reach the big old Zeppelin, and I don some Brotherhood attire since the plan is for me to use explosive charges on the hydrogen bags inside the Zeppelin. So I have to avoid blowing my cover while I make my way through the ship. I get grilled by Captain Kells, but he lets me go, and I quickly manage to slip around all of the patrolling Brotherhood members long enough to plant all 3 charges and make my exit to the vertibird. We then fly away and watch the Pridwin go up in a beautiful ball of flames before I get dropped off by Tinker Tom and make my way to Desdemona, who tells me that we're assaulting the Institute. I then teleport into the Institute and ride an elevator up to the relay room where I kill off all of the synth guards and scientists so that way Z1 can hijack the teleporter to bring in railroad reinforcements. I speak with Desdemona and she gives me the fusion pulse charge before we head into the old robotics section of the Institute and start wreaking havoc on all the synths. I take the battles in a slow, methodical way, picking off each synth one at a time. Overall, it's not too terrible as I managed to clear the old robotics section pretty easily after activating the Sentry Bot and letting it do some of the heavy lifting for me. Once all the synths are dealt with, we make our way into the bioscience section where the fighting continues. This section was also kind of a cakewalk. I kill some synths and some gorillas before making my way into the main atrium of the Institute. The fight here was really tense. The combination of a legendary synth and a courser at the same time made progress less straightforward, but luckily all of the railroad members and synths fighting alongside me made things manageable, and we clear the main atrium of the Institute before riding an elevator to make our way to Father's room. It's here where I absolutely failed to be an MLG pro gamer. I try a few times but keep failing the 360 no-scope on Father, but eventually I do pull it off, making this run the official best sniper run in Fallout 4. After that, I make my way over to Advanced Systems, where we fight through a ton of synths and place a charge on the reactor. At least that's what I would be saying if I didn't die in a embarrassing event involving Jet and me missing all of my shots on a legendary synth. Well, we go at the Institute assault again, and this time I die again. I died to the courser in the main atrium this time, but on my 3rd attempt it is indeed the charm as I 360 no-scope Father with ease before making my way to the reactor room again, where I take things much slower. After methodically clearing the room, I place a charge on the reactor and get teleported to the relay room. I decide to adopt my synth son and get teleported out of the Institute, where I press a big red button and watch a beautiful explosion while answering the question, can I beat Fallout 4 as a sniper? Yes I can. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, and commenting a new challenge suggestion. I'd like to thank my Patreons and channel members as their support has been tremendous. If you like this video, I think you would like my last video where I beat Starfield with only pistols. You all are beautiful, and this is Willow, signing off.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep.